So I'm hearing from a lot of you folks out there a lot of stress over your planning for this year. You guys are seeming to be falling into a couple of different camps. The select few who have already finished it, but most of us are still in the process, which is normal. And let's not do that, okay? But that's normal, and that's okay. Don't stress about that. What I'm concerned about is the stress levels, because people are saying things like, if I knew the future, I'd have the winning lottery numbers, so I'm not going to bother, or I'm stressing because I feel like I'm making wild guesses. It doesn't have to be that way. You actually can get your customers to help you do your planning. All you have to do is ask, and one of the easiest ways to do that is through surveys. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. They are not hard to do. They don't have to cost you anything other than a little bit of time, and they can be an incredible resource for you when you're doing your planning, or mid-year when you are looking to check in on your planning to see if it's working. So this is going to be a good one. Let's dive in. So you're in 2020, right, with the rest of us here, and we know deep in our hearts that planning is important. We know that is really the key to success, right? You have to have a plan so that you can implement your plan, so you can measure your plan, so on and so forth. But for too many people, it feels like they need to pull out the Ouija board or go into a trance or do some mystical thinking in order to get their plan in place, and that's really not the case. Some of it can come from your own insights, of course, into your market and your industry and what you know you want to present this year, which is great, right? That's gold when you've got those moments. But there's always that other piece that you need to keep in mind, and that is checking in with your customers, finding out what it is they're looking for, they're asking for, where they see gaps, where they feel they have needs. Now, I will admit that sometimes people have a hard time articulating their needs, their wants, and their desires. But if you don't ask, you don't have any information. If you ask, even if, maybe they're saying that they want a blue widget, and what you know they really want is a widget with wheels, at least you know that you're all talking about widgets, right? So it's okay if they can't completely articulate your path. That's fine. You're running your business. That's how it should be. But you need to reach out to them and find out what it is that they're looking for, what they need. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about surveys, because they're a greatly underused tool in the small businesses, organizations, nonprofits, that kind of thing, solo entrepreneurs. Don't think of this, which is funny because we all complete surveys, right? We all participate in them. But for some reason, we don't always think about them inside of our world. So we're going to fix that. We're going to talk about that tonight. But for those of you who are new here, who might not know who I am, my name is Kathleen, and I'm here as your tech coach. Short version is I am on a mission to help people get the most out of technology. I have this silly idea that technology should work for us, not the other way around, and that's what we talk about here on a regular basis, particularly from a helping small business point of view, because, hey, that's what we're all here for. That's what we all do, right? So welcome if you are new here. We are very happy to have you. We are going to dive in and start this party up. Okay, and this with that. There we go. I knew I figured it out. So let's talk about what surveys are, how you can do them, all that kind of good stuff. So at the basic level, right, surveys are a way for you to collect information from many different people in a relatively short period of time, okay? They're an amazingly effective way, actually, to collect quantitative information, right? Because, you can ask for opinions and all that, but when you send out a survey and you get those results back, you've got data to work with. And that is just so valuable because it removes a lot of the ambiguity around things, right? If you ask, 100 people something and 75 of them tell you something, that's something to pay attention to, clearly, right? And if you are maybe testing an idea that you want to try and you float it out in front of them and only 5% respond to that in a positive way, you might want to reevaluate that, right? But it's such a great tool to get this information, get those insights before you've invested a lot of time and money on them. So it is a great way to do it. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful in how you write your questions, what questions you ask. You want to make sure that they're not ambiguous. You want to make sure that you're not leading the witness kind of a thing. But it's the type of thing that there's lots of information out there on, and you'll be able to do it. Trust me. I've been doing these for years for all sizes of businesses. It's not as big a project as it might sound at first. Sorry, I cannot get rid of this cough. All right, so when are they helpful? They're helpful all the time, to be perfectly honest, but to give you some general information, they're helpful, when you're trying to identify or clarify, right, perceptions and expectations. They're a great way to gauge satisfaction levels, right? And they're also a great way to identify pain points for your customers, because let's face it, pain points are new business for us, right? If we can identify a pain point and come up with a good solution, that's a new line of business for us. So that is a great thing to have. Not that we want our customers to be in pain, but we want to be able to help them. Look at it that way. Okay. Screens just jumped. Here we go. Okay, there we go. We're back now. So when are they helpful? So they can help you identify potential improvements to what you're already doing, enhancements, right? Taking it to the next level, requirements that maybe you hadn't thought about, like needs that people have. That's what I mean by requirements. So maybe, this particular service that you're doing or this particular product that you're selling, you're targeting to a certain market, but by doing the survey, you realize that there's a market over here that has very similar needs and requirements. If you just do a little twist on something, that you could expand your whole market right there. It's also a good way to test out concepts around new features. Is this something that maybe people are interested in? Maybe they're not. You can kind of get a feel for it that way. Okay. And you can also kind of pre-test any changes or enhancements that you're thinking about putting out there before you actually do them, just to double check. Not that I'm saying that you should let that kill a plan unless it's really super obvious. Like I said, like in an extreme case, if you send it out to 100 customers and part of it, the survey is about this change that you're thinking about, and 90% of them hate it with a white hot passion, that you might want to pay attention to. If the numbers are less clear, then you might still want to go ahead with it, but maybe rethink how you position it. It's not so much that you're going to use this as a banhammer, but you are going to use this to help guide you as you're making your decisions in what you're going to offer, how you're going to offer it, when you're going to offer it, and who you're going to offer it to. Make sense? Now, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. You can do online mobile surveys, you can do face-to-face, you can do telephone, you can do old school mail surveys. Whatever works better for you is the way to do it, right? There's no right or wrong way to do these. I will say that the online/mobile ones are the cheapest and fastest ones to get out there. So if that is a factor for you, if time and or money is a factor for you, and isn't it for all of us, then you're probably going to want to start off with an online. If you've never done one before, an online also is a good way to go, because there's generally in the tools that you're using, they'll have some prefab questions that you can select from and then maybe, adjust for your purposes. So it kind of gives you a template to work off of, which is really nice. So let me just kind of throw a couple other things out there while we're talking. One of the other benefits that doesn't get talked about with this type of information collection is the fact that by not being face-to-face to you, and by the way, when I said face-to-face for the surveys, I don't mean you doing the surveys, I mean you hiring somebody or having your employees do it, because you're talking to your customers on a regular basis, right? You're interacting with them, so they already have that touch point, but there are things that people will say in a survey that they may not feel comfortable saying to your face, and I'm not even saying anything bad or, terribly good. You get more honest answers from people when they don't have to face the person that basically they're talking about, right? Or that is tied to the subject they are talking about. That's just human nature. So obviously you're going to keep talking to your customers. You're going to keep interacting with them in all the ways that you're doing it now. This is just another way that you can expand it, right? Because some people will never reach out to you. Like you probably have customers that will reach out to you in email, on phone calls, when you're meeting them in person, and they've got ideas and they've got things that they want to share with you, and that is great. Those people are awesome. Not everybody's built that way. Some people are more reserved and they're not comfortable unless, providing a kind of information unless they're asked. And if you ask them face to face, they may not have that information at their fingertips, right? You may catch them off guard. But if you take the time to send them out the survey, right? And give them a window, right, to answer the questions. You usually do a survey over a week or 10 days. That gives them some time to sit back and think about it and give you what they feel is a well thought out answer when they're comfortable, when they're ready to do it in the way that feels most comfortable to them. So again, you're just broadening the base of people who are going to provide this kind of information to you. Because, you know, if you look at the world as like introverts and extroverts, which may or may not be true, you don't want to just listen to the extroverts, right? You also want to hear from the introverts. Or, you know, you want to talk to the people who are maybe more reserved than less reserved, in addition to the people who are willing to come up and stop you on the street and say, hey, Harry, been thinking about your business, got this idea for you, right? So you want to hear from as many different people as you possibly can, and that's one of the big selling points of surveys. For those of you who are new here, I just want to take a minute and let you know that we do have a mailing list. So if you find this information helpful and you want to stay up to date, you want to know what topics are coming, if you sign up for the mailing list at yourtechcoach.net/mailing list, I'll let you know in advance what the topics are for the show and any other news that's coming up, keeping you up to date by letting you know what's coming. That's what I meant to say. Okay, so that's all you have to do is you just go there. It's a real simple form. It's basically your email address, and that's what I need so that I can send you that information that you requested. Super easy. All right? Okay, let's get back to the party. I moved my magic buttons. One sec. That magic button. Yay! Okay, so I'm going to run through real quick the 10 steps to doing a survey, because for people who've never done them before, it can be a little bit intimidating sometimes, just because it's new, right? New is always a little tough. So we're going to go ahead and jump in on this. So the first thing that you want to do, right, is outline the purpose for the survey. You want to have a clear purpose for your survey. You don't want to ask about too many different things. Keep it clear, keep it short, right? So why are you collecting it? What kind of information are you going to collect? What are you looking to analyze? That type of thing. Super simple. Don't overwhelm yourself. Keep it simple for you. It'll be simple for the people you're asking the questions of. Then you want to think about who you want to talk to, right? And depending on what the subject of the survey is, you may target it to different parts of your audience, right? So maybe it'll be customers. Maybe it's stakeholders, right? Maybe it's particular users of an application or your tools or your services. Maybe it's a special age group, a demographic, that type of thing. Knowing who you're talking to will change the way that you want to talk to them, right? Some people are going to be more comfortable with the jargon, some people not so much. Okay, then you're going to want to select your delivery collection method. Okay, so what the heck am I talking about, right? Lady, what are you talking about? Easy enough. So let's just say, for example, you're going to do an online survey, right? So the delivery collection method will be whatever tool you're going to use. Now, there's a ton out there. I'm going to go and do a little bit of research. But we're going to talk about SurveyMonkey just as an example. This is not sponsored by them. I get no money from them. This is just one example. If you do a search, this is what I like to do this live. So let's see. If you do a search in your search engine of choice and you do online search tools, I just want to see how many results we get. 4 million results, okay? So there's a lot of them out there. I'm sorry, search tools, that's a different show. Online survey tools. It'll still be a pretty big number. Online survey tools, yeah. So that came back with almost 4 million. So there's a lot out there. Like I said, I'm going to talk about SurveyMonkey, just because that's the most generic one most people use. You can use Typeform. You can use Google Forms. You can use Survey Gizmo. Zoho has one. There's a bunch of different ones out there. Almost all of them will let you do a certain number of surveys for free. Some of them base the free tier on the number of questions. Some base it on the size of your audience. Some base it on the number of people who can respond. Whatever. You can go and look at all these different ones and find one that you're comfortable with. The nice thing about them is they're online, they're prepackaged, they're ready to go, so you don't have to worry about making it mobile friendly. They already are. Like I said, a lot of them have templates for you to work from, which makes life much easier, right? Because you don't have to start from scratch. Because, if you're staying at the free level, they will include their logo, but they usually let you use yours too. Let me see, what else? And they all give you back analytics that you can download and use however you like. So it's all good. Should you want a little bit more from them, they all have paid levels. and the tiers, scale. Some of them are, very reasonable for like some just extra benefits. But, shop around a little bit, take a look. To be honest, the ones that I see people use most often at our level is Google Forms, Typeform, and SurveyMonkey. But your mileage may vary. Find one that works for you. So that's all we're talking about with that. And like I said, it's real easy to put your email addresses in there that you want to send it out to. They'll also give you a link so that you can send out the survey in different ways. So let's talk about that for a minute. Actually, is that in here? Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so we'll keep going. But that's all that is talked about. When I'm talking about delivery and collection method, it's just what tool you're going to use. Simple as that. Okay, let me bring that down. And we can keep partying. There we go. All right, so we got that covered. So then you're going to want to design your survey, right? And all that means is what questions are you going to ask? Now you can do whatever kind of survey you want. Some people do one-question surveys. That's a little light for me. I would say at least you want to do 2 questions, right? You want to do your main question, and then you want to do an open-ended question. And that open-ended question is just basically a text box saying, is there anything else you want to tell us? They can either type in some sentences or not. 3 is probably a good number if you're looking for a quick survey for people that's easy for them to take care of quickly. And return to you. You'll probably get a nice high return rate for that. Make sure if you are doing a short survey like that, that you communicate that in your ask, right? When you're asking people to complete the survey. But if you can go bigger, right? You can do 10 questions, you can do 20 questions, 30 questions. Generally, I think once you get over like 10 or 15 questions is when you start to get into that paid tier for most of these tools. So if you've never done it before, keep yourself on the free side. Try one, just see how it works, get comfortable with it. As you go through, write down all of your questions, review them harshly, okay? Make sure that every question is necessary. Make sure that every one is clear and concise. Make sure that they are direct questions, right? You don't want them to be vague and ambiguous. You don't want them to be confusing or misleading. So make sure that you are very precise in your language and that you are not, as we said earlier, you don't want to be leading the witness. Don't say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love us? That's not the kind of information you're looking for. Keep it to one question at a time. So one of the things you want to watch for, if you're reviewing your questions, or if you're having somebody else review your questions, ask them to look for the flag and. Okay, if your question is something, something, and something, something, that's generally 2 questions. You want to break them apart. So make sure that you're being very careful about that, and make sure that you're speaking in their language, right? So if you are technical, right? So I tend to work in a technical area. When I do my surveys, if I'm sending it out to my general customer base, I tend to not use the heavy-duty jargon, right? You want to talk to people in the language that they think about your goods, your tools, your services in, not your industry language. Now, of course, if you're talking to your industry, right? If you're going to your peers or you're going to parallel providers, looking for maybe touch points where maybe you can partner up, by all means, then use all the jargon you want. But obviously you want to skew that the appropriate way. Think about when you're designing it, make it easy for them to respond clearly. Try to use scales wherever you can, or radio buttons or multiple choice buttons. You do want to give them at least one opportunity to type in more, but try to make the rest of your survey very quick. Click, 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 drag, whatever, so that they are able to get through it quickly, because they're giving you their time. You want to respect that. And as soon as people start to see too many places where they feel like they are expected to write an essay, that's when you tend to see people bail. That said, try to avoid yes or no questions for the most part. There are cases where they do make sense, but if you see them, really evaluate it. Is yes, no enough, or do you want to do it on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Or the various levels of how much you like something. I love it, I like it, I'm okay with it, it's not terrible, I hate it, right? Those kinds of things. Obviously different words. But you want to make sure that you are you're getting as much value out of the information and making it easy for them to be specific about it, right? Because maybe if you just say yes, no, do you like X, Y, Z? They might say yes, but they might have some reservations about it, but you wouldn't know that from a yes, no question. But if you asked it and gave them a 5-point scale or a 10-point scale, and all of the yeses were kind of wishy-washy in the middle, then you know that's something you need to look at more closely, because they're like, yes, but, okay? Which is why you want to give them that box, because at the end, a lot of them may tell you what that but is. You want to give them some context around why it's worth it to them to do this, right? Now, some people will do it just to help you, right? They're supporters of you, they're fans of you, so they want to go ahead and they want to support you that way. That's awesome, right? Totally want to do that. But it doesn't hurt to, also what's in it for you kind of a thing. Now, some people, will do these kinds of surveys, and as a part of it, they will do a giveaway or a discount or whatever. And that's fine to do. You just want to be a little careful with that, because you want to make sure that you're getting useful answers, not just people completing the survey to get the goodie. So you want to keep that balance there. But you could just, put it in the context of, hey, we're planning for this year. We've got some ideas and we want to hear from you. Are these the kinds of things that you're looking for from us this year? Or is there something else? So that they understand that you're doing this in order to figure out how to help them better. And usually, for most people, that's all they need, right? Because if they're doing business with you and they're taking the time to do the survey, they feel invested in you in some way, whether they love your products or they love your services or whatever it is. So they're going to be willing to jump in and go ahead and do this, which is all kinds of awesome. Then, before you send it out, do a little test run, right? Send it to some employees, some friends. Make sure that the process is working, that you're seeing what you want. So send it out to, 3, 4, 5 people, and just have them go through it. So that way you can see, did it go out as you expected? Did the reminder go out the way you expected? Because all these tools will give you that. You're going to send it out once, then you're going to send out a reminder or two, and then on the last day you're going to say, hey, last chance, make sure you do this. So, do that test run, make sure you've got all the kinks worked out on it, make sure that the answers are getting, tallied correctly and you're getting the results before you send it out to the people that you're really looking to get that information from. Make sense? Okay. Righty. Then you're going to actually do the survey. See, it's really not a big deal. I know it sounds like 10 steps is so much, but it's really not. So then you're going to, once you've tested it, you've got it all, you're going to get it out there. Recommend starting on a Monday and then letting it go 3, 5, 7, 10 days, whatever works better for you. Give them the information about it. Don't forget to thank them in advance, right? They're doing you a favor. And, make sure you've got the right feeling on it. Now, when you are looking to send it out, and maybe, I didn't, so I'm going to jump off here for a sec. And we're going to talk about the fact that when I've had other people do this, when I've had some friends do this, they were like, okay, well, but I don't have a big email list. That's okay. Email is not the only way to do that. The tools are definitely, designed, for you to send out an email. But the point is that they give you a link. Okay, so when you go in and you build your survey in whichever tool you're using, they're going to give you a link to use. You can put that in your emails. You can even very often put your email list into the tool if you want to do that, which is really nice because that's usually how you can easily automate the reminders and that kind of stuff. If you're going to do it yourself, you just have to make sure you build those email reminders in whatever email tool you use. But the whole point is that you get this link. Spread the link far and wide, right? So absolutely, email, no doubt about it. Do a blog post about it. Do a couple of blog posts about it. Schedule them out. We've talked about scheduling before. Put it on Instagram. Put it on Facebook. Put it on Pinterest. Put it in all the places, okay? If you have a shop, right? So then maybe just on your laser printer, take a 8.5 by 11 sheet, put the URL with a little explanation on it, and cut them out and hand them to people when you hand them their products. Like throw it in the bag with them or when you hand them their receipt. If you've got people that go out and do sales, give them these pieces of paper or flyers to hand out. Don't be shy about getting out there. The more you get out there, the better the response will be. You should know going into it that you're not going to get 100%. That's not what happens with surveys. Unless you're just sending it to your friends and family, it's not going to happen that way. But, you want to do whatever you can to get as large a response as possible. So don't keep it a secret. Make sure it's out there. Make sure you're giving it to all the places. Any place you can think of to put it, go ahead and put it. If you've got a whiteboard or a blackboard in your shop, put it on there. If you're really good with your point of sale system, you'll probably put it on the receipts if you wanted to. So just don't hold back. Once you've got that link and you're ready to get it out there, get it out there, and don't be shy about it. Because I've seen people do that. It's like, oh, I just sent it to my email list. I'm like, well, what about all the other things that you use? Oh, right, I could have done that, huh? Yes, do that. It's a good thing. All right. Then make sure you do the reminders. Now, of course, it's going to be a little harder if the people are just seeing it on a blackboard in your store, but, maybe change it up on the blackboard. Make sure that you send out the reminder emails. Make sure that if you're visiting a customer, twice over that period, you say, hey, if you haven't had a chance, don't forget the survey's still open. Make sure you're doing it on social media. Make sure you're doing it on your blog. If you're doing live, make sure you mention it on your live. Make sure you do a little thing like this. And if you need help doing those kinds of things, reach out to me. Where is my thing over there? It's over here. Okay, I can help you do all of these things if you need the help doing it. The point is, you're going to tell them once, you're going to remind them, and then on the last day, you're going to say, hey, time's running out. Okay? Get as many responses as you can so that you get the most benefit out of it, which will help your customers down the road. Then comes the fun part for me. Now, maybe I'm weird. I'll admit up front, I'm a data geek. I love data. So this is the fun part for me, right? You get the data in, you process it, you analyze it, you interpret it, you save the raw, and you match it to the other data you have, maybe from your website, from your sales from last year, whatever, comparisons you want to do. This is the meat of the journey, right? Because now you've got the information, you've got the reasons why you sent it out. You're going to compare that to the results you got back and see where the needle falls. Are you strongly on the right track? Are you pretty much, but maybe need to adjust a little? Or are you so far off that you need to go back and maybe rethink some things? This is the time to figure it out, not in November. So do this now, get it going, or whatever your year is. I mean, we realize you might be seeing this later. But the point is that you want to do this early, and you may want to do this often, right? You may want to do this, adjust your plan, launch your plan, start working on your plan, and then check in a couple of months and try it again. The caution I want to give you is, like, a lot of people do this and they've never done it before, and then they get really excited about it, which is great. But don't turn this into your full-time job, right? And don't turn this into your customer's full-time job. So yes, do it, do the follow-up. That's all fine. Just, don't do it every day for the year, because that's not going to be helpful for anybody. And then when you've got all of that in front of you, review the plan, compare it to the results, make the adjustments, and start to move forward. It's really not a big deal. I mean, I broke it into 10 steps just to make sure we didn't miss anything, but this can be done literally in a couple of hours. The hardest part is probably coming up with the questions, and that's really only hard the first time. After that, you'll figure it out and be able to zoom right through it. So it is a incredible resource. It is analytical data, and it gives people who might not otherwise feel comfortable making these recommendations to you or giving you this kind of information completely comfortable, because they have that separation. They have that comfort barrier that makes it easier for them to do it. So that way you're getting all the information, right? You get it from the people who are outspoken and would tell you anyway, and the people who might not otherwise speak up, and you might be missing something really valuable for you and them. So if you are interested in this, let me lose my picture here. I put together a guide for you to remind you on all this other stuff, and it gives you a few more other tips. So you just go to yourtechcoach.net/free survey guide, no spaces. And that way you will get the information you need, the reminders that you need right there in front of you. That is what I have for you today. As always, thank you for coming by. If you find this helpful, I do hope that you will share the word, because that helps you, me, and them. And if you would, like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is on the platform that you are watching on, that would be all kinds of awesome. I appreciate it so much. If you have ideas, if you have questions, if there is something that you would like me to talk about on the show, frankly, that's where my best ideas come from. So don't hesitate, reach out. You can go to yourtechcoach.net. There's a contact form there. Let me know what your questions are. Let me know what you want me to do a show on. I have planned out the year, but I am open to adjusting it if you folks have questions. And yes, there's a survey coming. So you can also do it that way if you prefer. But whatever way works best for you, don't hesitate. Feel free to reach out. If you need a fast answer, right? If you're up against a problem where time is of the essence, just let me know that when you complete the form. And let me know how to get back in touch with you, and I'll respond to you directly. Otherwise, I'll use it as a show topic so that everybody can benefit from it. Okay? thank you so much. I hope you had a great holiday season. I hope your year is off to a good start. And I hope you give surveys a try, because they really are a good way to collect information you wouldn't get otherwise in a really painless way. And why should all the big companies get the benefit of it? It's our turn. We need to do this too. All right? Thank you so much. I will talk to you next week. For those of you who like to be here for the live show, next Thursday is a problem for me, so I'm going to do the show on Wednesday. For those of you who watch this on the replay, it's not a problem, but I do know some of you like to show up to watch the show live, and I appreciate that. So I just wanted to let you know that. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good one. We will talk next week. Bye.